hi, let's paint a floral wreath. That is hard to say. Let's paint a floral wreath. Say that 5 times fast. I have about a 7.5 inch by 7.5 inch square piece of paper here, and I am going to use one of my glass Pyrex dishes to make the circle shape. I do not like to try to freehand a circle. You can do a wreath. You can do different shapes if you want, but circle is the classic. I'll probably erase that a bit back, but I'm not going to worry too much about pencil lines right now. So I have my circle. I'll just erase slightly. Did I push a little? Just so I kind of know where it goes, but it's not too dark, because once you paint over pencil, you can't erase it. There are some pencils that dissolve pretty well. I remember reading this whole blog post about it and then promptly forgot and did not buy any of them. So usually in a floral wreath, you either have all small things or you have a combination of small and big things. I honestly did not plan that far ahead and don't entirely know what I'm going to do. I think I'm actually going to draw in pencil some of the shapes that I would like to do, because if you end up with pencil, you can always go back over it with darker watercolor or with a black ink pen or some sort of black pen and just, you know, make it seem like you did it on purpose. So you can draw little stems that go right with the circle, and they could have some going off of them too, like so. And some leaf shapes you can do. You can do pointy with a round. Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to entirely fill these in because I want to watercolor over them and have some of them be sort of outlined and some of them not. I do like to repeat more than once an element, but I won't do it exactly the same. So I won't have it go quite as closely along the circle, but I'll draw those again. But I am going to watercolor a lot of those same shapes, and then maybe one more time over here. And I like to have things going all in one direction. So instead of, so I could go back up like this. You could use this as your starting point and have some go this way and some go this way to meet at the top. I'm just going to have everything go in one direction. And even though I am sort of carefully drawing things out, generally speaking, I'm not very careful. So I think I'm just gonna start with that and work in some bigger shapes and different leaf shapes as I go. I have my watercolor palette over here. I have my size 6 brush, but I'm actually gonna start with a smaller brush to start. And I'm mixing up a dark color. I'm not gonna use my skinny brush to mix, that does not work. I'm mixing up Payne's Gray with a green that's already in my palette for a dark green look, and then I'm going to load it onto my, there's probably a better brush to use for this, but my size 2 round brush is not very pointy anymore. So I'm just using my, I never remember the name of these, my rigger brush, and just sort of outlining that very carefully. Woo! Almost dropped it there. And I also want to make sure to keep my hand out of anything wet. So I'm gonna carefully go around. I was just doing something with markers, so I did wash off the side of my hand, but it doesn't feel entirely clean. All right, so I've outlined that. Do I have, maybe I can make my little size 2 brush work for me. I'm gonna grab that same dark color and just make little shapes, So pointy, pointy where it faces the stem, and round where it faces out. And is this a real, I'm not a botanical illustrator. I'm not trying to, like, sometimes I will paint real things. Like I will look at close-up photographs of roses or peonies or something and really try to, you know, paint a really realistic image of that plant. But for the most part, I like to just do fun, loose, you know, shapes found in nature, but not necessarily something that you're going to find out in the wild. In these areas here where I didn't match up with the pencil, as long as it's not painted over, I can just erase them. And since I'm using dark paint, where it covers, you probably won't even be able to see it. Okay, so now we have that shape. Now I would like to do maybe something with berries. I'm going to grab my size 2 again and mix up. I've got an orange in my palette. I'm gonna add some, my words aren't coming. What color is this? It's a rose, permanent rose. That's a little too orange for my taste still. I'm gonna add some of this magenta to it. I should not be using such a small brush to mix. It really is not effective. So I'm gonna add this magenta tone to it. There we go. That's more like what I was looking for. Kind of a cranberry color. And I'm gonna use my 2 again. And load up my brush and just draw some circles. I'm gonna leave a little spot on each one white. Some of them will touch each other. Try to make them roughly the same size. That may or may not work. Some will be right on the circle. Some will be outside of it. Maybe I'll kind of make like a rough triangle kind of shape with it going out more at the top. And then I'm going to tap in a little indigo to part of my paint, but not all of it because I want to continue using that cranberry color. And then I'm just going to tap kind of on the bottom or on the opposite side from the white just to give it a little something. And then I'm going to mix up a brown down here. I have a purple in my palette that I'm just going to add. I have some raw sienna and some burnt sienna I'm just gonna add, and then I'm gonna add blue on top of that to make a smokier kind of brown. And I'm gonna use my skinny little stippling rigger brush again and just sort of make loose twig-like branches coming down and maybe some sticking out of the top. As well. It looks to me like I flicked some paint onto my to my piece here. All right, so there's one, and then I'm gonna switch back and do that in a couple more places. Maybe not exactly the same, and I don't want them to be in exactly the same order either, like right after one another. So maybe I'll just do 2 of these groupings, and maybe this one will be smaller. Not so many berries. And then I'll tap in that darker color down below and grab my skinny brush and do my twiggy branches here. And I'm really enjoying using this little skinny brush. If you do not have a brush like this, you can use just your size 2, just use the very tip if you have a size 2. I think over here I'm just gonna do a little like branches coming from here, just because I kind of like the way those look. Just like you had some random branches that you found that you wanted to add to your wreath that you're making. And I'm gonna do that over here as well. I'm making it thicker than the little wispy branches that were coming from the cranberry kind of, or whatever those are. They're obviously not really cranberries because cranberries are in a bog. Okay. Now, what would go well with that? I like the red that we have going on. What color would I like to pair with that? Did I plan this? No. Maybe some brown, like a more yellow brown. I'm going to add burnt not burnt, raw, the lighter one. I'm adding the lighter brown to the brown I already had mixed up. And I'm gonna make little, little round brown, almost like silver dollar kind of leaves. I do not know if this has enough of a point to it. The silver dollar is not the right. They've got a point on each end. Does that make sense? There you go. So I'm making kind of a circle with a point on each end. Trying to make them point in somewhat different directions, filling them in after the fact. And I'm going to touch a little of that red into the bottoms to kind of call back the red in the other spot. And I'm going to do more of a green wreath, twig calling back the green from this original foliage. And I'm just gonna go like this. I think these are some sort of a leaf, but I don't really know what they are. And then of course, I need to repeat those somewhere else, so I'll use this blank space up here. So circle with a dot. Circle with a dot. Not a dot, a little tail at the top and bottom. Little line at the top and bottom. And then I'll go back with that red, 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 red. And then use my skinny brush to get some green leaves going, twigs. Okay, good. I want to do some lavender, not just because the song Lavender Haze has been stuck in my head nonstop, but because I have a new lavender paint that I am enjoying. I might use what do I want to do here? I think, so I've loaded up my size 2, but I'm just going to use the tip of it, and I'm going to sort of push down and lift up. It's awfully thick on my brush, which was not exactly my intention, but so I'm sort of making a long shape here. Maybe goes, they're all facing the same direction. And then I'm going to tap little indigo on the bottom of some of them. Maybe put a little indigo hint. It's a little darker colored in a few spots. Do a few little lines at the top. And then I'm gonna do, again, that green, do some real skinny green connecting branches with a few that come out the top or the sides. And I will do the same thing upstairs, up on the top there, but a smaller grouping. And maybe I'll put in a little accent of it there and there too. I'm using my size 2 brush again and just painting down sort of like that. And then grabbing that indigo. It's not indigo, I lied. I think it's midnight blue actually. Any dark blue will do though. Just tap in the bottom. Add a few areas that are a little darker. And go back and add your green twiggies. And I'm gonna add a little bit over here as well, trying not to get my hand in any wet paint. So I'm using the tip of the brush and then pulling sort of down and back just to make little brush strokes, little kind of petal shapes, and then adding that darker color in. Okay, so that's nice. It's almost there. I feel like it needs something within the branches probably for a little visual interest. Maybe another red color, but this time an orangey red maybe would work better. So I'm gonna add some car yellow to the red mixture that I had. It's almost like a rust color now. Can add a little Scarlet Lake back into it. I think that makes a good kind of burnt orange color. And I'm just gonna add little dots. I'm not even painting per se. Like I'm not trying to draw a shape. I'm just dotting my brush down. And some of them make very nice circles and some of them don't look like circles. I'm gonna put some here, even though this might not technically be what I drew over there. I still think I need the repeating color scheme there. And this right here, it just doesn't feel like it has enough green. So I am going to lengthen this branch. I'm using the wrong brush to fill this in. There we go. Just to make it feel a little more balanced. So you can step back and look at yours and see if you think it needs anything else. But I'm happy with that simple little wreath. And what can you do with this? I don't know, you could hand letter something in the middle. You could just use it as a practice sheet of paper and practice more petal and leaf shapes in the center, you could do whatever you want with it. But now you have this pretty little wreath, and I hope you have enjoyed yourself. I would love to see what you painted. You can email me, Jen@JenPachichi, or use hashtag paintwithjen. Jen has one N. And follow me @JenPachichi. Bye.